Welcome guys to a webinar, Polaris Outdoor's very first webinar. Woo! This one is titled Tips and Tricks, and what we're going to be doing is talking about travel and lots of tips and tricks that you can look at when you're going traveling. So what we decided to do is to kind of split up a topic, and we're going to be looking at country by country. So today we're going to start off with Borneo, and the reason we're going to do that, we know Borneo really, really well. If you go to the Polaris Outdoor website, you can see Borneo as one of our trips, and we've been operating that for many years, and we've got brilliant relationships. We've had some incredible times there. So we thought we'd share a little bit of that with you, talk about some of the traditions, some of the culture, and some of the awesome things that you can see and do when you go there, and then also some travel tips on kit and equipment and a few things like that. So lots of people travel for lots of different reasons and in different ways. When we go traveling with Polaris Outdoor, we have to have a plan, and that's mostly because we're taking out clients, and some of those clients are school students, and so you've got to be really kind of hot on your risk assessments and your safety, your itineraries and your escape plans. Over the course of these webinars, we're going to talk about all of these different ideas and how to plan a trip and put it together really successfully, including risk assessment stuff, itineraries, backup itineraries, emergency plans, safety techniques, and all that kind of stuff. Between us, we've probably kind of seen it all and seen almost everything that can happen, and the things that haven't happened to us have happened to other people that we hopefully learn from without making either the same mistakes or being in the same situations that they've been in. So obviously when we go away, we make a plan. Now, often today with the rise of the internet, it's brilliant for you to do some research. You know, it's often a very enjoyable thing also, like, where do I want to go? What am I interested in? And what can I see when I'm out there? So the internet allows you to do that. The good old Globetrotter books from back in the day, they used to do that brilliantly as well. And you could follow a story in the Globe manuals and books, and you could also then see the sights and partake in that adventure and that journey as well, which is really, really cool. When you've got a plan, you should always have a backup plan. So if the weather changes, or if maybe a political state changes where you're going to, you need to be able to have a backup plan. And within that backup plan, there should be emergency plans as well. So escape routes, how would you get in and out of a place successfully, especially if you decide to go to a remote area, which is off the kind of the beaten track, in areas where there may not be reputable tour companies who can look after you and have done the same thing again and again many times over. One example of that, if you go to Machu Picchu in Peru, which is a wonderful trail to walk, there are many trails that get you to Machu Picchu. The tour companies have been doing that for decades, and it's very well polished.
Is there a 6-year study that they have to do, the tour guides, before they can take tours?
And we as Polaris Outdoor, we're not allowed to be those tour guides or even train in it, because we're not from the country and we're not local to the area. So they hold themselves in high regard because of the training and the due diligence they do to keep people safe on the trip. And that's one reason why so many people do it. So over the course of these webinars, we'll go into things like this in very particular areas so that you guys can think, oh, I'd like to go there. And hopefully we'll give you some good information that will help you out on the way. So Borneo is the third largest island in the world. It has an area of around 748,000 square kilometers, and it's third next to Greenland, which is the largest island in the world, and New Guinea, which is the second largest.
Well, then geographically, it's located kind of in the center of maritime Southeast Asia. So it's one of the greatest Sunda Islands. It's located just north of Java, west of Sulawesi, and then east of Sumatra.
The island is politically divided into Malaysia, Brunei, and also Indonesia as well. 73% of the country is Indonesian territory, and it's huge. The Indonesian territory holds the oldest known jungle on Earth, which they say is over 1 million years old. and there are still some places in there that people haven't been to. One of my favorite documentaries that David Attenborough did a couple of years ago was where a team from National Geographic went into an ancient volcanic crater that was on the Indonesian side of Borneo, and they discovered all these little critters and creatures that they'd never even seen before. So that was really, really cool. In the north is Sabah, which is the Malaysian territory. Sabah and Sarawak make up the Malaysian part, which is about 26% of the whole island. And also the highlands are up there as well, with the Kinabalu National Park, which we'll talk about in a little while.
And then finally, you've got Brunei, which is a sovereign state in its own right, and that's located at the northeast. And that occupies a mere 1% of the total land mass of Borneo. So it's a tiny, tiny state.
Borneo has an incredibly rich culture, and one of my favorite aspects of it is the headhunter tribes. Back in the day, the headhunters were very prevalent, and it was part of their custom for a young man in many of the tribes before he could get married to go out and to come back with the head of another person from another tribe, and that was his rite of passage, and he often couldn't get married or go into manhood until he'd done that. The main headhunting tribes from Borneo are the Dasun, the Iban, and the Murut tribe as well.
So then you've got Sarawak, which is famed for its astonishing national parks, its biodiversity, and its unique melting pot of cultures as well. It's really a fascinating place. Half of the Sarawak population is made up of Malay and Chinese, the other half of indigenous tribes, and they're commonly or collectively known as Dayaks. And each of those tribes have their own language or dialects. So it is a fascinating place. And then because of that, you've got a broad range of religions. We've got Christianity, Islam, animism is still there. And then you've got a fusion of kind of Taoism, Buddhism, and even Confucianism. You've got dragon boat racing, was brought to the region by the first White Raj, that was James Brooke, and it's kind of a way of diverting the violent energies of the local tribes towards something a bit more constructive, still with that element of competition. And every year they'll have an annual regatta, a dragon boat regatta, that goes from the main bridge in Kuching, the main city, up the Sarawak River, which is super cool thing to watch if you ever get the chance.
Yeah, when researching Borneo, it's probably really important to look into these tribes and the different people that are in the different areas, because you can't just rock up into one of these villages and think that you're going to be okay. There are certain customs and people that are still relatively cut off from a lot of the world, and if you just rock up at a village somewhere and start taking pictures, you could get yourself into a little bit of trouble. So if you are going to go off the beaten path, do some research and make sure that you know what you're doing. One of the local tribes and villages, which is great to visit though, is the Mari Mari village, which is near the Kinabalu National Park. And the Mari Mari are a tribe of the Dasun, and you can pay to go in there, and you get to experience the tribal life of those Indians and just enjoy partaking in their culture. It's really, really cool stuff. And all the funds from that go to help out with environmental and indigenous projects on the island. So it's really cool. Sabah is in the north, and it's very much a Malaysian, Christian, and Muslim place. Malay and the Muslim culture is deeply entrenched there, but the Malaysians also love a lot of British culture and custom, because during the Second World War and after, the British had northern Borneo as one of their colonies, and they really helped to protect the Bornean people from the Japanese during the Second World War. And there's some brilliant stories and some pretty terrible stories as well about the Japanese occupation of Sabah and the death marches and the death camps and some of the things that happened there, which are really fascinating to go and see if you do go up to that part. In 1973, Islam became the official religion of the state, and the Muslims constitute about 65% of the population right now. But one thing which is wonderful, if you go to Kota Kinabalu, which is the capital of Sabah, all the people there, they get on fantastically. In fact, it's one of the best places I've ever been to in the world, where you have Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and people from every kind of walk of life, and they actually all really cohabit that area in pretty much complete harmony, and it's wonderful to see. For me, it gives me a lot of hope in humanity when I go to northern Borneo, because of the way the people do get on really well with each other. Famously, last of all, for Sabah is the orangutan, which are native to northern Borneo. And if you go to northern Borneo and you go to the east coast to Sandakan, there's a sanctuary there called Sepalok. And most people that go to Borneo, they go to see the orangutan because they're an endangered species. So Sepalok is the sanctuary. And if you're very lucky, you can take tours down the Kinabatangan River, which is absolutely stunning. And if you're lucky, you can see orangutan in the wild. Another feature out there also is the pygmy elephants, which is really awesome to see too.
Then finally, you've got little old Brunei, Brunei Darussalam, which means abode of peace, which is pretty accurate considering the country's higher standard of living and therefore longer life expectancy compared with most of Southeast Asia. Around 75 years is the average life expectancy. Citizens of Brunei receive free education and free healthcare from the government. It is considered to be the most observant Islamic nation in Southeast Asia. So therefore, you've got beautiful mosques which you can visit. They're all over the place. So therefore, a consideration is it is illegal to drink and publicly and buy alcohol in the country. So
I think, again, learning about the local customs and respecting their customs really help you navigate your way through these places with a lot more confidence, and also not getting yourself into trouble with the local police and things. So we'll talk about some organizational tips. Let's talk about jabs. So if you go on the .gov.uk website /foreign travel, you can see the state of pretty much every country in the world. And this is a really good place to start if you're deciding to travel anywhere. So if you log onto there and you type in wherever you want to go, so we're looking at Borneo, it will tell you if it's safe to go to those places. So for example, if you look at Borneo right now, you'll see that it is not safe to go to the north and the east coast of Borneo. And unfortunately, Sandakan, where Sepalok and the orangutan sanctuary is, that's on the coastal area there. It's designated as unsafe because of piracy. So last few years, there's been a lot of piracy from the Philippines. The Philippines is very, very close to Borneo, and they come down from the north and they follow the coast from Bangi Island down to Sandakan. And there's been many instances of kidnappings and also murders and robberies and things like that on that coastal area. Now, that doesn't mean that Borneo is unsafe, because Borneo is a big place. So if you go to Kota Kinabalu and other areas, you'd be perfectly fine to do so. You just got to do your research and make sure you know where you're going. Yeah,
and with a lot of the developing world, there is a more consistent problem with things like muggings. So, it's don't wear your bling openly, that kind of stuff.
Blend in,
yeah. Don't make yourself a target. And if that situation does arise, then comply. Just give everything over. So moving on to a bit of health stuff, injections and vaccinations. So you need to be fairly proactive with this. 4 to 6 weeks before departure is when you need to go see either the GP or a travel clinic. If you leave it any later than that, several problems could arise. They might not have what you need in stock. That's quite common. So they have to get it in. If you go in the summer months, when everyone's going away, then
big rush.
Some of the vaccinations that you'll need take a couple of weeks even to have any effect. So you need to allow for that as well. So yeah, be proactive with that. The main ones you're looking at are tetanus, diphtheria, and polio. They're the big ones. Other considerations are rabies and Japanese encephalitis. Rabies, the vectors are mostly dogs and bats, but there are less stray dogs in Borneo compared to other developing countries, for sure. And the Japanese encephalitis, the vector is a mosquito. The particular species of mosquito bite at nighttime. So the most effective way of avoiding that particular disease is from dawn to dusk, cover up, loose long sleeve clothing. Light colors are a lot better than dark colors. If there are a lot of mosquitoes around, then a hat with a mosquito net is really important. And then, of course, bug spray. We'll get onto that in a moment. The other big three that you want to consider are hepatitis A and B and typhoid. Nowadays, they've just got a combination.
Comes in one jab.
Yeah, just one, bang it in, and that's it. So, but that's an important one to get.
Cool. So, another bit of kit. Let's talk about snake gaiters. So, I want to talk about something that you wouldn't generally take with you, but if you do something like what we do, which is going to very remote areas of the world, off the beaten path, then you might want to consider getting a pair of snake gaiters. You can stick that into Amazon, and loads of snake gaiters will come up. Obviously, it's a pair of gaiters like mud gaiters that you get in the UK, but they've got a little bit of armor in them. So if a snake bites you, it will protect from the penetration of the fangs of the snake going into your body. 90% of snake bites happen below the knee. That's worldwide, by the way. So having a pair of snake gaiters is a good precaution to take if you are doing anything off the beaten track, or if you're spending a prolonged amount of time in the jungle. Now, Borneo actually has 160 different species of snake, which is actually quite a lot, but only 24 of those are venomous. And 19 out of those 24 venomous snakes actually live in the sea, or they're on the coastal areas and they spend much of their time in the sea. So being on the beach is actually probably where you're going to be in more potential danger of encountering snakes. Luckily, though, most of those sea snakes, they are not aggressive at all. In fact, if you go anywhere near them, they will usually want to go away from you. So the kraits and the other sea snakes, which are often they're quite stripy, those are the ones that you'll see in the water, but they usually won't come after you. A snake will usually only kind of have a go at you if you decide to try and pick it up, or you corner it, or you make it feel uncomfortable. So leave the snakes alone. That's probably a good idea.
Leave the snakes alone.
Leave the snakes alone, definitely. The snakes, though, there's a couple that are quite angry. The most angry one is the pit viper. So if you are off the beaten path and you're walking through the jungle, a pit viper is a residential snake, and it lives in the leaf mat and it makes a nest. So if you come too close to it, they're extremely well camouflaged, and you won't see that snake until after you've been bitten. You'll receive a bite, and then you'll realize afterwards that there's a snake there and, oh, it bit you. Pit viper can give a lethal bite as well, and they're generally angry all the time. It's a pretty
sassy snake.
It's a grumpy snake. Yeah, it's a grumpy snake. So stay away from the pit vipers. But again, they're hidden most of the time, so they're actually quite difficult to see. So a pair of snake gaiters is going to be good if you're off the beaten track, going in the jungle, especially around dusk and dawn where it's difficult to see the ground. The other one, of course, is the king cobra. The king cobra is actually not a very angry snake. It looks big and aggressive, but the king cobra, if it feels the vibrations of your footsteps, most of the time it will try to leave. If you try to go picking it up or poking it, then it can deliver a bite. Incidentally, the cobra will often, on its first bite, if it's an adult cobra, it will only give a warning bite and often not deliver a full amount of venom into you. But if you do bug it or you do make it pretty upset, then it will give you a full load of venom and that can kill you. It'll stop your heart. So again, be careful around those areas. If you're using local guides, they'll often tell you the most likely areas where those kinds of creatures are going to be spending their time, and you can either avoid those or just work your way through those areas carefully.
Right, bug spray. There are some options. So we'll break some of them down. There are obviously loads and loads of different brands out there, but we'll go for some of the big ones. One of the most, it is one of the most effective, is DEET. DEET isn't the main chemical, but Jungle Formula is one that we use. It is very effective, but there are some cons. First off, it is pretty horrendous to put on your skin. It feels tacky. It smells really, really bad. There are potentially some health implications that come from it, so do your own research for that. The other thing it's not so great for is it does destroy synthetic material. So if you're going to the tropics, you're likely not going to be wearing a cotton t-shirt, for example, because cotton gets destroyed by the jungle. It doesn't wick away moisture very quickly, and you will smell bad. So synthetic t-shirts is what you'll wear. This will degrade. It doesn't melt, but it does degrade synthetic material quickly. More importantly, if you get some of this stuff on your mosquito net, for example, it's such a fine material that it will go through it quickly. And that goes the same for cameras and other expensive kit that you want to look after. So that's DEET. This is 50. I don't know if I said that's 50% DEET.
50%, yeah.
Which is, if you're going to go for that, is the one you want to go for. My advice, if you're going to use that, spray it on your hands and then put it on your face. Don't make that mistake.
And if you've got a really posh Gore-Tex jacket, DEET will destroy it quite quickly. So any good kit is not great for DEET. So what I do is over the years, I've switched to a couple of different products. Here's a couple of good ones to look at. This one's called Guard. Wrong one. That one's called Guard. And both of these, the Wide Eye and the Guard, they are made of completely natural things. So this is mostly lemongrass, for example. It's got a lovely smell. It goes on the skin really nicely, and it doesn't degrade any of your kit and equipment at all. It smells good, smells very lemongrassy. Unfortunately, and kind of obviously, this isn't going to last even half as long as DEET. So you are going to go through a bit more of it. It costs about the same price as the DEET, but you are going to consume more of it as you go. And the same with this one as well. This one is got really lovely ingredients in this one, but again, it doesn't last very, very long. If you want to go with something completely natural, you can stick your arms into a termite nest and let all the termites crawl up you, and then just smear their bodies onto your skin. And that's actually one of the local remedies for mosquitoes, because when you crush those little beasties all over you, it gives off a very pungent smell and it keeps the mosquitoes away.
The budget option, I think.
Yeah.
So there is a fairly new product on the market. This is, I mean, the brand is soya, but the active ingredient you're looking for is pectarin, and that's derived from peppers, believe it or not. There have been a few quite robust studies going into this, comparing it to the likes of DEET, and it compares really well. Tit for tat, they're pretty equal, which is great. It does slightly less well when it comes, I do mean slightly, when it comes to ticks. So there's consideration there, but there are other measures that you can take to avoid ticks. It's nice to apply. It hasn't got a horrendous smell. It's just kind of like a lotion. It lasts a long time. And yeah, there's no sticky tackiness to it. So that's my preferred choice.
Good. Right, moving on. Let's have a talk about water purification. So when we go to different places around the world, water is obviously very essential. But as many of you know, going to different places and taking water just out of a tap, we take it for granted in the UK that you can do that generally really well. But in most places in the developing world, you can't do that without getting sick. So we use water purification systems pretty much wherever we go. So I'm going to show you a few right now. This one is a Katadyn gravity filter. It works very, very simply. You go to the river and you fill up the bag. It's just like a dry bag thing, and you can clip it at the top and then tie that onto a tree. And then in the window in that bag, you can see a filter. The filter is actually one of these reusable filters, and they work really, really well. They will clean up all protozoa and bacteria and sediment out of the water. So they will make that water clean. They're really good. These extra filters cost about 40 or 50 pounds, and they'll do around 20,000 litres. So you get quite a lot out of it for what you're paying for. So that's this one. Really simple piece of kit to use, and great if you've got groups, because you could take one or two of these with you. You can get bigger versions as well, and you can hang them up in the trees and just leave them. And over the period of the day, keep filling them up, and they'll give you a sustained amount of water throughout the day. I think they drip about half a litre every 3 or 4 minutes. So it's not crazy quick, but it's also not slow that you'll be waiting around for your water forever. Relating to that as well is the One Up, and this is the Pocket microfilter by Katadyn. Not sponsored by Katadyn. You might think that I am with all the Katadyn stuff I've got, but
if they want to sponsor us, then
yeah, Katadyn, if you're listening,
please get in touch.
Give us a bell. We use a lot of your products. This one is kind of like one of their ultimate travel solutions. You can get an expedition version of this, which is very large. It does huge amounts of water very quickly. But this is great for travelers. It's made of stainless steel, and it has a pump in the top. And inside the cylinder is a porcelain filter. Now, the porcelain filters have a really big advantage over the synthetic filters, because the porcelain ones have years and years of use in them, because all you have to do is take the porcelain tube, which is the filter itself, take it out of the stainless steel housing, and you wash it, wipe it off, and just give it a clean, and then pop it back in again. So this can be used for decades if you looked after it, and it would just keep purifying your water. It does say how many litres it will do. It's like 50,000 litres or 13,000 gallons or something like that.
50,000 litres.
Yeah, so it's a lot. And again, if you clean the porcelain part of this on a regular basis, it will do easily that. And I've used one of these for many years. They're really, really good. That will also take out all sediment, all protozoa and bacteria from your water. But if you're feeling like you want a bit of security on that as well, you can use a SteriPen. You can get these on Amazon and most places on the internet. Just Google it, for about 70 or 80 pounds. And this is a USB chargeable UV light. Now, mine actually got broken this weekend, so I do need to get another one. But on that broken end there, that is a ultraviolet light. And when these two little electrode thingies touch the water, that UV light will activate, and it will kill all bacteria in that water. It lasts for 30 seconds. And during that 30 seconds, it will clean half a litre of water. You just give it a little stir around. I use this with me even when I use a filter. And it's because I have filtered some drastically terrible water that still has given me some tummy bugs. So I take a SteriPen with me and I blast it with the UV light. One thing to know about this, it will kill friendly bacteria as well as unfriendly bacteria. So if you're hoping to get happy bacteria in your water, then the SteriPen isn't the way to go, because it will kill the friendly bacteria as well as the unfriendly bacteria. They cost about 80 quid, and I think they're worth every single penny.
So those are the kind of options for mechanical purification systems. There are others. So as the last one demonstrated, there are cons to those, and if you break your purification system in country because you drop it, and that's the most common way, then you need a backup. So for that, you probably want something small, and going the chemical route is a good option for that. Now, there are old school chemicals that have been used in the past,
Like
iodine, chlorine as well. Neither are particularly good for you. So this is a more recent-ish chemical. This is chlorine dioxide, so different to chlorine, and it actually works by oxidizing the microorganisms within the water, and it destroys their cell membrane. Now there are different brands. This one is called Aquaprove. You can get them for about £12 on the internet. I think they're an American company, but you can buy them for sterling as well. So they're not breaking the bank. The cool thing about this is that it's got a little tablet, and what you do is you fill up the main pot to the line, and then you put the tablets in it, and then wait, I think it's 6 minutes. Once you've made that solution, you then put 4 drops into every litre of water that you want to purify. So if I had a litre bottle, that makes it really easy. I put 4 drops in it, and that will last for ages. The actual solution itself will last a month. So if this will do one person way more than a month. So this will do a group of people for a while. But do get rid of it after a month, because it's less effective after that.
It also really helps you grow your dreads.
My secret. Thanks. So if you want to go the old school route as well, but still really viable option, this is a millbank bag. So very simple, tight weave, bit of cotton, canvas rather. This is a filter, not purification, so distinction there. You filter out all the sediment, and that's going to stop things like parasitic cysts hiding in that sediment. And what we would do is filter that straight through to a canister, and then you would boil it. Now there's people say different things when it comes to boiling water, but all you really need to do is to bring it up to a rolling boil. So that's 100 degrees. That will kill any virus, bacteria, and protozoa.
As long as it's sediment free.
As long as it's sediment free, because like I said, parasitic cysts will hide in sediment. Also, sediment's not good for your stomach lining, so filter it out with one of these. If you don't have one of these, then you can filter it through a pair of trouser leg. That's quite good. So 2 legs one inside the other will provide a good filter. If you are at altitude, then water boils at a lower temperature, so boil for longer. And it's not a lot, but still a consideration. You do need to be quite safe with that.
We've used millbank bags for years on camps. It's a very traditional way of getting clean water, and like Josh said, it's an unbreakable piece of kit, really, in the sense that it's very low technology, so it works really, really well. The chemical and the pump options, they are efficient, lightweight, but they do have a price tag on them. So check out where you're going, what's appropriate, and then in your pack decide what you want to do. Interestingly, we were on the Peak District this weekend with training some of our young mountain leaders, and we took enough water with us for one day, and we were at a river cleaning some water for drinking for the second day, and we were only 2 days out there because we were over there for the weekend. But as we were cleaning water, one of the trainees dropped this and broke it, which means that we then ended the water cleaning exercise, and we'd only got enough water for about half of us. So we then had to split our water between the whole group and then just kind of cope with that for the day. And we did walk into camp in that afternoon, all of us definitely dehydrated. So making sure that if you're going off-piste and you're staying off-piste for a prolonged period of time, make sure you take a couple of water purification solutions with you, because if your technology goes down, you're going to need a backup. Otherwise, you're going to have to get out very, very quickly. Good, right. So let's talk about staying safe. We've talked about this a little bit already. When you're going to foreign places, blending in, not showing off, doing a bit of research on what kind of clothing you should and should not have, even what kind of watch you should or should not be wearing, is something which is important. and you should pay attention to, because over the years, especially, the rich people of the world and the poor people of the world, that gap has only been getting bigger. And so in some places in the world, there are higher levels of desperation amongst the poor. And again, we can take that for granted in the West because we may not have experienced that amount of poverty. And therefore, when you decide to just walk into a place all kind of blinged up, you can put yourself in a bit of a difficult situation. We will be talking about safety in every webinar that we do, especially particularly related to different places. So for Borneo, the biggest danger in Borneo, although there are some muggings and there are the occasional kidnapping via the Filipino pirates, that is actually nothing compared to the regularity of road traffic accidents and deaths. So this is a really important one to talk about because, again, it's something that's easily taken for granted. Now, in Sabah, they do actually drive on the left-hand side because it's an ex-British colony, but the quality of driving can be, I'd say, very questionable. And even walking on the pavements and sidewalks, you need to have eyes in the back of your head because people lose control of vehicles more regularly. There are lots and lots more traffic accidents, and the quality of safe cars that are on the road is very, very much lower than the standards in the UK. So when you go to these places, you have to have a plan and make sure that your transportation plan is up to scratch. Do some research about if it's wise to take tuk-tuks, if it's not wise to take tuk-tuks. I have seen some horrific tuk-tuk accidents in my time and visited hospitals or been in hospitals with people who have had tuk-tuk accidents and seen some pretty bad stuff. So they are really fun to ride on, but I wouldn't be taking tuk-tuks all the time. And if I had students with me, I might do it once as a kind of like a thing to do because you're in that part of the world, but I wouldn't be doing it on a very regular basis. When you're taking public transport, do a walk around the vehicle, have a look at the tires, have a look at everything on that car that might be falling off or missing. If it's not up to scratch, if you've got bulging in the sidewalls of the tires, then you probably shouldn't be getting on that bus because there could be a blowout at any time. If you know that you're going to altitude on some roads that may have edges and cliff sides, then you should think twice about getting on that. And you may think, well, it won't happen to me, but you're taking that risk if you see those signs and you ignore them. Also, look at the drivers of those transport. I've been on many transports in that part of the world where the driver has been fatigued. He's been working for many, many hours and he's tired. And then you're about to go on a long journey with that person. Are they going to fall asleep? Are they going to be okay? Do they have a co-driver with them and do they not? And also look out for alcohol as well. I've not been on transport with people with alcohol issues, but I have been in mountainous regions in that part of the world where I've employed guides who have been drunk, and I've ejected them from my trip and said, you're not working here because you're a liability and you're not safe, so I'm asking you to leave. Now, that can be very insulting to them, and the couple of times that it's happened with us, the people were very offended that I did it. But you're looking after the safety of yourself, your friends, and if you're a leader in charge of especially a group of students, you're looking after the safety of those people as well. So make sure that you don't compromise on those things and keep your eyes out and be aware. And don't shy away from this. The Brits are very good at shying away from talking about this thing or saying, that's not good enough. I'm not accepting that. You have to speak up because if you don't, you could be on that piece of transport where it's that one time where something could go wrong.
I want to talk about Google Flights.
Yeah, so just to finish off, booking a trip is a lot of fun, and there are lots of different places now on the internet where you can get good deals. One of the great places to look at is Google Flights. Now, a little tip for you when looking on Google Flights, instead of planning, say you're going from London, and let's say that you're going to Kota Kinabalu, instead of planning your trip from London to Kota Kinabalu, a good idea is actually to reverse plan your trip. So plan it just from Kota Kinabalu to London. And the reason you can do that is because from Kota Kinabalu to London, it might give you a different route, and it often does. And that route will actually often be cheaper. The reason for that, and I think this is the reason for it, is to do with the algorithm on Google, that when you're going from London, which is a very wealthy country, to a poorer country, you get charged the maximum. But if you start off in a poor country, or for example, you go through a super major hub that has regular flights in a poor country, you can often get a better deal. So reverse plan your trip, and then if you have the time, think about airport hopping and going through a few different airports to cut the cost down on your journey. Often if you take a trip from London to Kota Kinabalu, you'll stop at Dubai or maybe Guangzhou in South China, and then go on to your final destination. But if you don't mind breaking up that trip a little bit more and adding 1 or 2 more stops, you can often get your flight prices down a whole lot, which is really, really good. That's really it for today, guys. I hope that was useful. If you've got any questions, drop us a line. There's a lot more that we could talk about regarding Borneo. We've only talked about a couple of particular things. So if you've got any questions, feel free to drop us an email at info@polarisoutdoor.co.uk, and you can look on the website for all the events and activities that we've got on our events page, which has them all in date order, some of which that you can sign up on and get involved in right away.
Simon's got a question. He asks, if anyone is injured, are there any local hospitals that I would need to take out health insurance? Yes. Always take out health insurance.
Yeah, definitely.
Because hospital prices can be a lot more expensive than you think.
Also, when you go to developing parts of the world, you can walk into a hospital and the care that you get could be quite low quality. But if you've got a good insurance package, you can often get on the private healthcare and claim it through the kind of like the higher quality medical services that they have. Give you one crazy example. When I go to Borneo or to different parts of South America, I try my best to not use hospitals' medical services, often because they're quite unsanitary and you can pick up more diseases and infections than you went in with in the first place. So for me, I have quite a lot of medical training, and I've done that on purpose so that I can either self-medicate or help those that I'm taking out with me. So being able to do that is really good. It does take a lot of time and also cost some money, and the average traveler won't do that. But to solve part of your problem, there's a great insurance company that we're partnered with called Battleface. And if you look on our website, you can see Battleface near the bottom. And Battleface are a very specialized insurance company because they deal with a lot of people who are involved in the security business. So they can actually put together very specific packages for you. And if you go on any of our trips around the world, Battleface have custom built packages which are built exactly for our customers doing our activities. So if you want to go off the beaten path, you can call them up and say, look, I'm going to spend 7 days in the jungle and I'm off the route in this way. And they can put together a very particular package for you that can fit your needs. Some of them can even involve like helicopter evacuation and stuff like that as well. So again, it depends where you're going. Most people will, look at the post office for an insurance package. In my opinion, many of those are not worth the paper they're written on, because a lot of those main insurance companies will often try and find a way to get out of helping you if you go off the itinerary just by 1 iota. So make sure it's a comprehensive package which covers you. Main language in Borneo. So they actually speak English really well in Sabah.
And in Sarawak as well, actually.
Yeah, but the most prevalent tribe in northern Borneo is the Dusun, and the Dusun has its completely own dialect in Malaysian. So getting a Malaysian phrase book is really, really good, but be aware that the people that speak Malay will be speaking it in lots and lots of different dialects. They love it though when you say "Selamat pagi" and you like use a bit of the language. They absolutely love it. So don't be afraid to learn phrases, to ask them to speak slowly and to take a phrase book and get some help with the language, because they really, really appreciate it.
Francesca asks, not sure if it was mentioned, but safety whilst travel between islands, particularly north and east coast.
Yeah, so we mentioned before, at the moment on the Gov website, it's not safe to visit the islands, and traveling by boat between those islands. There's loads of really cool islands, like off Sandakan there's a climbing mecca, which is a brilliant island for rock climbing. There are turtle beaches there, which are really amazing as well. There are some of the small islands that have been untouched. People don't live there, and they've got incredible wildlife. Watch out for the saltwater crocodiles because they're big and deadly, but more deadly are the Filipino pirates. So at the moment, no travel on the islands on the north and the east coast would be advised at all. It'd be very unwise to do that.
Which depends on your insurer, but it can void your insurance as well.
Yeah.
So it depends on who you're with, but ill-advised.
Absolutely. So if you disobey the .gov advice, and they have color codes on, I think it's just traffic light, like green, amber, and red, isn't it? If you go to a red zone, or where it say it is not advised for you to travel, it says all but essential travel. All your insurance could be completely void if you go there, and that could be any insurance with any company. So you should always check and say, do you adhere to government guidelines on travel? And they will pretty much all say yes. Now, Battleface is actually different from that. If you say to them, I'm going here and I want to be insured, they will insure you. You have to show some of your safety measures, and then they will talk about safety measures that they can put in place for you if you need them. And that's why one of the reasons why we use a company like that, because they can get us into difficult places if there is a need that somebody should employ us to take us there.
Any more questions?
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a pleasure. If you liked what you saw, share it with your friends, and give us a bell at Polaris Outdoor, and we will see you
on, well, the next one will be on Tuesday, 30th of January. I pulled that from my brain just then. Thank you, Hannah. Same time, 7:30.
So have a look at the teacher's bucket list as well. The teacher's bucket list is not just for teachers, it's for anybody who wants to go to some crazy places. We've got some kind of general world life bucket list trips on there, but we've also got some really, really random ones which you might not have thought of. So check those out and see if you want to go on one of those adventures with us sometime. Great. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
We'll see you guys again. Have a good evening.